So we're going to start with a nigun. We'll call it Nigun Yedid Nefesh. We'll find on page 10. All right? And we'll just sing the melody first. Yai, dai, 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 da, 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 dai, 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 da, 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 dai, dai, dai. And it's also in the red, transliterated on page 10, the opposite side of the Hebrew. Here we go. Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Ishochadecha el ritzonecha. So let's warm up for Shabbat. I want to hear your voices. Lie, lie, lie. Here we go. Lie, 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 lie,
So the word Shabbat comes from shavut, to just be still, if you will. How many of you have ever heard the expression Shabbostik? You ever heard that expression? Shabbostik. It's a Yiddish expression, right? When something doesn't feel like it's Shabbat appropriate, say it's not Shabbostik. When it feels appropriate, it's Shabbostik. It's how the Jewish people would often think on Shabbat. Either it works and it fits into the idea of rest and reclamation and rejuvenation, or something that we don't want to engage in. I want you to think about something right now that you should put aside this Shabbat, and that you should not engage, that is not Shabbostik. I want you to think of something and tonight to pledge just for the next 24 hours to not engage, whatever that little thing might be, to help remind yourselves about the holiness of the day, we're going to begin our Shabbatic service on page 11, Lechu Neranena.
So this is very Shabbatic in Mbali, Uganda. Lechu neranena la Adonai Nariya Litzor Yisheinu.
Remember the transliteration on the opposite page. Reheinu
Lechu neranena la Adonai Nariya Litzor Yisheinu. Litzor Yisheinu. Likat mafana bito dabis mirot narialo. Likat mafana bito dabis mirot narialo.
Lechu Neranena la Adonai Riyah Litzor Yisheinu.
Lechu neranena la Adonai Nariya Litzor Yisheinu. Arba'im shana akut bedor ve'omar amtu elevavhem. Arba'im shana akut bedor ve'omar amtu elevavhem. Lechu neranena la Adonai Nariya Litzor Yisheinu. Litzor Yisheinu. Lechu neranena la Adonai Nariya Litzor Yisheinu.
Page 13. Turn. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Sing unto God. Hopefully, every day is a new song. A Shir Chadash. What a great name for a congregation. Shira Chadasha, too. You know, or Beth Shira, a house of song. Let us become a house of song tonight. Shiru Ladonai.
We'll start with the Nigun. Yalalai, lalai, yalalai, lalai, yalalai, yalalai, lalai, yalalai, 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 lalai, yalalai, yalalai, lalai, Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Ladonai, Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Sing a new song unto God. Sing a new song, all the world. Sing a new song unto God. Sing a new song, all the world. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Let's sing Lailai. Yalalai, Lailai. Yalalai, Lailai, Lailai, Yalalai, Lailai. Yalalai,
Page 16, the fourth line from the bottom of the Hebrew and from the transliteration on the opposite page. Or Zarua la Tzaddik, may the light be sown for the righteous. The idea is that the righteous are lights, right? Our actions help light up the world and to declare good paths for others and for us. We join together, Or Zarua.
So you have the Hebrew and the transliteration there for Or Zahua. And there's an English part here that you're just going to answer. And it goes like this. Be the righteous one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Be the righteous one. There you go. Let's try it. Be the righteous one. Good. Okay, good. All right, so let's go from the beginning. Oh, Zahua la, la 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 la.
Composition, so beautiful. On page 20, you'll find third line from the bottom of the Hebrew and the transliteration, Romemu.
Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'ar kodsho.
Kabbalat Shabbat, this welcoming of Shabbat, we call this the official part of the introductory services on Friday nights. Going to culminate here in the welcoming of the Shabbat bride of Lecha Dodi. So we're going to do the first two stanzas on page 23, and then we'll turn to page 25 for the last two stanzas, and then the final stanza, when we get to it, though many of you know, we'll rise at that time, we'll turn towards the doors, and we'll welcome in the Shabbat bride. So we begin together, page 23, Lecha Dodi.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. La 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamur v'zachor v'diבור echad, yishmi'anu el hamichad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem v'tiferet v'tila la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki mikol haberaka, mirosh mikedem v'sucha. So na'aseh b'machshava tchila, la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Page 25. Let me be small. Not yet, not yet. One more, we'll do. Let me be small. Let's rise together for the final stanza of Bo'im V'Shalom.
בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובסולה, תוכם ולעם סגולה. בואי חלה, לה 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 לה. lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. B'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela. B'nei b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
All right, you may be seated. As we've kind of just tried to experiment a little bit this service and have a little bit more of the Kabbalat Shabbat and some newer melodies that have been going around in terms of Minyanim, we've chosen to take the break between Kabbalat Shabbat and the official Mariv just to give a little bit of distinction. Monday night we're celebrating Purim, right? God willing, on Sunday no rain, and we'll have a wonderful carnival. No rain. It's supposed to be cold, just cold. All right, we can deal with cold. And if you think about Purim, you probably don't too often think about comparing it to Yom Kippur. I don't imagine too often you think, well, those holidays are kind of similar. Right? Now you think about the seriousness of Yom Kippur, right? You sit there and you are supposed to be the most introspective, the most solemn. You're not eating, right? And then you have Purim, in which you are, right, the most celebratory. You're supposed to be over the top. You're eating. In some communities, you drink until Ada Jelod Yada, until you don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai. You couldn't have two different holidays, and yet, according to the rabbis, they are linked together. It's interesting. I don't know if you ever thought about the name Yom Kippur. In the Talmud, it's actually Yom Kippurim. If you slow it down just a little bit, Yom Kippurim, a day like Purim. Isn't that interesting? So the idea, so there's ways that you could probably make comparisons. Some people in this like philosophical context will actually say that, compare that on one day we put on a mask like Purim, on the other day of Yom Kippur we take off our masks. Isn't that interesting? The idea that we have to reveal to ourselves who we are. And yet, Yom Purim, the rabbis tell us that in the days to come, the book of Esther, along with the Torah, will continue, right, to be relevant. All the other books will be invalid. Isn't that, Isn't that something? The book of Esther. The book of Esther along with the rest of the Torah. Right? I'll come back to that in just a second. And then they say, what are the two holidays that we'll observe? It'll just be Purim and Yom Kippur. That's so fascinating to think about that comparison. So, on the one hand, by the way, both have a relationship of lots being chosen in terms of how we determine, right, guilt, if you will. So if you think about Purim, you know, many of you, that Haman cast the lots down, and that's how he chose the date for Purim in terms of, well, the day in which the Jews, right, would be destroyed by the Persians. And you may not remember, though, Bob, you've done this Torah reading, of the Sela Azazel, right, the goat which is sent out into the wilderness, is that they would cast lots on them to determine which of the goats would go out into the wilderness. Right? The idea that how do, in life sometimes, we can't determine in terms of how life is going to go, and sometimes it feels like a random crapshoot. Isn't that true? You ever feel about that? Like you just don't have a sense of control, and you want to believe there's control. Right? And Purim is a day in which, by the way, the world is turned topsy-turvy. Everything you thought is the way it should be is actually going to be the opposite. And on Yom Kippur, we try to straighten out that world as well. Each one, so here's the story. Some of you may know this midrash. It's a rabbinic tradition that talks about at Mount Sinai that God picked up the mountain and held it over the Israelites. You know this? Some of you know this story. Right? It's a rabbinic, by the way, it's rabbinic fantasy. Right? It's their imagination. Eileen, I know how much you love those rabbis. Eileen studies with me Torah weekly class, and every time that we talk about that rabbi, she goes, those rabbis are just crazy. They must have been on something because, So but by the way, it comes from a verse that says, Vehem amdu b'tachtit har, they stood, tachtit, by the way, what's tachat in Hebrew? Tachat, it's your underside, right? Tachat means under, right? Tuchas, as it would be the Yiddish. Right? So you could translate it that they stood not around the mountain or at the foot of the mountain, but they stood under it. So what does it mean they stood under it? So in this rabbinic imagination, God, if they were at Mount Sinai, God took up Mount Sinai, held it over them and said, would you like to receive the Torah? If you do, that's great. If not, I'm dropping the mountain on you. Now, by the way, I don't imagine that you think that that's how the Jewish people would begin life and race. Any lawyers here, Bob, if you had this case in court, you would immediately be able to rescind this contract between God and the Jewish people because of coercion. Right? An easy case. Easy case, right? And so the Talmud says, doesn't that give argument to annul that sense of obligation? They said, yes, it does, except in the time of Esther, in Purim, they took it upon themselves again voluntarily. Right? There's a verse that says that the Jews took upon themselves, and for the rabbis, it meant affirming the mitzvot. Because I love to remind people, what's the unique feature of the book of Esther in terms of the Bible? How is it different from any other book of the Bible? No mention of God's name. No mention of God's name. And so what does that mean? It means that without any coercion, without any miracles, without anything, that they affirmed from themselves. And Yom Kippur, some of you may know, that it's also about a second affirmation. The Israelites who at Mount Sinai, when Moses comes down the mountain with the first set of tablets, breaks them because of the golden calf. He goes back up. 40 days later, he comes down on what day? Yom Kippur. For the rabbis, they make this comparison to Purim and Yom Kippur. And I think it's so amazing that some days feel like, Yom Kippur, solemn and serious. Other days feel like Purim. Right? And in it all, we try and find the messages. We try and find life. We try and find goodness. Comparisons of Yom Kippur, Purim, and hopefully you'll join us on Monday night as we celebrate at Shomrei Torah Synagogue, jointly with them in some wonderful program in Megillah reading. We're going to continue with the Mari service. I'm going to ask you to rise on page 39a. And if you're joining us at home, you can rise too with us and welcome this Shabbat with us as we begin with the Baruch Hu, the official call to prayer.
Yay, lay, 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 lay. Ya la la lay, lay, lay. Ya la lay, 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 lay. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Mevorach leolam vaed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam vaed. Yalalai lalai, yalalai lalai, yalalai. Lay, lay, lay. Ya la lay, la lay. Ya la la lay, la lay. Ya la lay, la lay, lay, lay.
You may be seated. We're going to continue page 40, Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot U'kimu mishpatim Otanu lemadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shochveinu u'bekumenu Nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayeinu ve'orech yameinu u'bahem lege yomam v'layla Ki hem chayeinu ve'orech yameinu u'bahem lege yomam v'layla Hem chayeinu ve'orech yameinu u'bahem lege yomam v'layla Ki hem chayeinu ve'orech yameinu u'bahem lege yomam v'layla Ve'avatecha אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל
To prepare for the Shema, I invite you to close your eyes for these first 6 words of the Shema in which we listen. I want you, if you will, to close and we're going to take a moment just of silence before we begin the Shema, just to feel that silence, to feel our hearts beat, to feel the essence, the pulse of life itself, and then we'll join together in the words of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue silently.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמן.
Page 44, מי כמוך.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני ובקודש נורא תהילות תוסיף אלה נורא תהילות תוסיף אלה מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלינו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד די 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 ונאמר אדוני את יעקב וגלו מעל חזק ממנו מעל חזק ממנו די 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 די
Take a moment for prayer of healing and strength. So we're going to leave the text for a moment, and whether it's you that's in need of this prayer of healing and strength, or you're dealing just with chronic issues, if you need healing, whether it's physical or emotional, people dealing with addictions and all kinds of issues. I'm thinking of congregants who had surgery yesterday and life-threatening surgery and was in the process of recovery. And so whether you're here in the sanctuary and thinking of someone, or it's for yourself, or you're at home and you're in need of these prayers, or you can think of someone, I want you to just close your eyes for a moment. I want you to think, bring to mind the actual image of that person. I want you to see them. And if it's you, I want you to see yourself and feel the healing powers of strength and comfort. Take a moment in our private prayers, and then we'll join back together with a prayer for strength and for healing.
Refa'enu Adonai B'nei Rapha. God, only you can bring true healing, and so we pray. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei Cholei Amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Shekhinah, restores our loved ones, heal our people speedily in our day. Venomar, Amen. Refa'enu Adonai B'nei Rapha. God, only you can bring true healing, and so we pray. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei Cholei Amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Shekhinah, restores our loved ones, heal our people speedily in our day. And let us say, Amen.
Page 45, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. Hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shelomecha, Ufros aleinu sukat shelomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai, and keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Amen.
Page 46, we're going to rise for Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת בגבורות הברית עולם איי 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 ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם בששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא חירותי ואמריך מלכותי בחייך וביומך וחיי בכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמירה בגבולך לאדם לעולם היה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ריחו לאליו כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו
Page 47, you'll find the Amidah. Before you enter into the private meditational prayers of this Amidah, this prayer of introspection, we're going to join together in the Kavanah, the meditation at the beginning. Adonai tzvatai titachu fi yagid tilatecha. God, open my lips, my mouth may proclaim your praise. And just want you to feel your hearts opening up as you enter into this personal prayer. We join together.
עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. Hey, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו
Page 56, we rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה לעוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומי, הוא אלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשמותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד לכן נקבל ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. This moment of memorial, we're going to, in a moment, recall the yortsites of loved ones. In this particular week, we're also mindful of recent bereavements in our community. We mourn the passing of David Marchant, the father of Paul Marchant, longtime member. Some of you may remember David. We mourn the passing of Audrey Benish, the aunt of Ellery Manus. We mourn the passing of Samuel Orenstein, the husband of Dory, father of Carmi, David, and Daniel. And we mourn the passing of Bernard Lippman, Father Michelle, Stephen Hoysh, and Steve Lippman. Michelle's father, those of you who know Michelle Hoysh, the funeral is now set for Tuesday, but in Costa Mesa. So it's a little bit away. She'll be sitting Shiva there that night, and subsequent nights she'll be here in the valley. So those of you who wish will be able to go by and to express your condolences. If you're reciting Kaddish, whether you're in a period of mourning still or whether you're observing a Yortzeit, I invite you to rise at this time. Right? Anybody who's reciting Kaddish? And you're going to share who you're reciting for before we recite these words. Okay. Yeah. Is that- Okay. And if you at home are in need of reciting Kaddish, we invite you to rise as well. And just if you want to recite the name of the person that you are reciting Kaddish for, just want to name them. At this time, all who are reciting Kaddish, we invite you to join together with us. We, the community, will respond with those responses in which we indicate we give comfort and strength to the mourners. On page 58, those reciting Kaddish join together. Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Amen. V'Almad Yivrach Yerutei v'Yamlich Malchutei v'Chayechon v'Yomechon v'Chayei L'chol Beit Yisrael Bagalav Izman Kariv Yimeru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Umei Omaya. Yitbarach v'Yishtabach v'Yipa'ar v'Yitromam v'Yitnaseh v'Yithadar v'Yitalev v'Yithalal. Shmei Kudasha Brichu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechamata Da'amiran V'Alma V'Meru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Meru. Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Mromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Meru. Amen.
Amen.
May God establish His peace in the heavens, grant peace and harmony for us, for all of Israel, and all of humanity. As we say, Amen. You may be seated. Debbie, you're going to share with us some announcements of upcoming events. Come on, please. What's that?
Shabbat Shalom. And welcome to Shabbat Together. And if you're watching from home, I encourage you to come in person whenever the next one is. I don't know if it's April or not, Passover? Yeah. Yeah, so in May. Yeah, come to the next one. It's great. And I wanted to thank Hazan Stein and Chris, and Chris, percussionist, and Hazan Stein, of course, music, and Rabbi Vogel for leading this evening's service. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we'll be here for Shabbat morning services. Next Friday evening at 7 o'clock, Shabbat Fusion. And on Saturday morning next week, we celebrate the bar mitzvah of Jojo Recibi. Purim, as you said, Rabbi Vogel, is just days away, and our carnival is this Sunday from 10:30 to 3:30. There will be food, games, inflatables, and come out for a fun day. And if you didn't order tickets in advance, you can buy them on site. And it is never too late to volunteer. So visit our website tomorrow to sign up, or just show up on Sunday, find us at the volunteer check-in booth. On Monday, March 6th, 6:30, we'll be at Shomrei Torah for this year's Spiel, Mordechai Superstar, which I am told is the story of Purim based on some kind of famous Broadway musical. And last, our Shabbat retreat is back, and that will be in April, the 14th through the 16th, and registration is open online. So for information on all events and services, just ask us, check your emails, or visit our website at templealiyah.org. As always, thank you for being a part of Temple Aliyah's story. Shabbat Shalom.
We're going to finish up. Hassan, how would you like to finish up our service? I know we're going to be at dinner. We're going to celebrate. We'll have fun there.
Yeah. So I thought we were going to do Shalom Aleichem to get us in the mood for Shabbat dinner.
All right.
How's
Why don't
that
we all
sound?
stand? Why don't we rise together and we'll do Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashalem, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And those of you who are going to join us for dinner, we'll go on in. Hopefully you'll find somebody to sit next to around the table. If you don't know them, sit down next to them anyway, all right, and introduce yourself.